Today on News from the Krabby Coffee Shop, we apologize again. We read your emails, and I have a psychotic breakdown and possibly quit the show. That all could happen today. If things turn out okay, we're going to talk to Holly D. Roberts about Hollywood. Let's get this over with. When I have a problem, you have a problem.
I'm aware.
What do you want to do first? Should we read a couple of emails?
Yeah, read a couple of emails, but then you said you have a problem that I have to fix.
Yeah, you're going to have to deal with this.
Like unfair, but okay.
Okay, this one comes from Bert. Both of these emails are very nice. Bert says one influence on SNL you missed was Monty Python. And he also said some of the writers were initially out of National Lampoon. And this is an intriguing question. Do you recall when they had the Muppets on SNL? I do not.
Nor do I.
Bert says he doesn't recall if it was funny or not, but he remembers it as being dark. It was sarcastic monsters and dragons and such. Weird.
That's weird that PBS would do that.
Yeah. And he also talked about Judd hitting on a thing with the Replacements. He loved them, like all of us saw them numerous times. And he agrees. You get a good show out of them about every third time. He, like me and Judd, thought they were a great local band, and it was fun. And, you know, a kind of, well, the Mats are playing. Let's go see them. And he says the same thing with Soul Asylum, and he also has a bunch of Bob Stinson stories, but pretty much all of us do that were hanging around at the time.
I was thinking about this last week after we did the show. Why is their nickname the Mats?
Replacements. And everybody just goes Mats.
But replacements. They should be the Ments.
Oh, my God. Are you one of those? Really?
Well, seriously, halfway through the week.
You know what? I have enough anxiety right now the way it is. I don't need you piling on me. I have to deal with this kind of attitude for 90 minutes every day the way it is, okay?
But halfway through the week, I was like, that doesn't even make sense.
Can we just let it go?
Okay, all right.
But I wanted to tell you one thing.
But it's dumb.
Are you done? Mm-hmm. Any more last words you want to get in?
Yeah, I'm good.
Have you seen, I think the kids are calling them mashups. There's a mashup going around of Kendrick Lamar, his halftime show.
Yeah.
But the music is Meet the Muppets.
Oh, I love that.
It's time to meet the Muppets.
It's
oh my
time
God.
to do the show.
It's so funny.
That's
and it's
amazing.
So perfect. Yeah, so you got to Google that. If you get a chance, Google that.
And you know what? When the Super Bowl halftime show happened, I'm not going to pretend at all that I know a ton about Kendrick Lamar or that I follow his music a lot. But then I went and kind of did a deep dive because I thought that show had so much energy. I thought it was so consistent and amazing. And not my cup of tea musically usually, but I kind of did a deep dive on like, who is Kendrick Lamar? He's kind of a cool dude. He's really, really smart. He's really well-intentioned. I thought he was great, and I have appreciated him more since.
I thought he was an NBA player.
Of course you did. Of course you did, because we're old and we're white.
Doesn't he sound like an L.A. Laker? I mean, he's a center for the L.A. Lakers, Kendrick Lamar.
Sure, yeah.
And did he date one of the
Kardashians?
Yeah.
No, that's Lamar somebody.
Lamar Kendrick.
Yeah, Lamar what? Odom. Lamar Odom. Jesus. Holly, our guest, just told me that.
Here's the next email. Subject, it's from Tom. Subject, Krabby Coffee Shop is excellent, in caps.
Okay.
The new format, including Amy Daniels, is the best ever. Please keep up the great work. Love the show. And he even remembered your name, which is, you should.
I extra love him.
Should I send this to you? Maybe
please do. I'm gonna frame it and I'm gonna put it up on my wall. Tom, that was very sweet of you. So what's the problem?
Are you done?
Yeah. Well, are you?
We've got way too many topics today.
We do.
Holly is here. Mm-hmm. Holly Roberts. And do I have to do Holly's background? Holly somehow snuck in the back door of My Talk 107. Turned out she's a good, hard worker. She'll take any shift. She'll do anything. She's creative. She's funny. She's intelligent, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's the Holly background. But every time Holly and I see each other, it's in the hallway and she's got to go do this and I've got to run and do this. And we don't have enough time to talk, but we always talk about movies.
Because you're
And there's-
both really big movie nerds, right?
I'm just a dumb geek with no movie education. I just know what I like and what interests me. She actually has education and background and has studied movies. And we talk about, well, let me go through the rundown. This is why we have too much show, too many topics. We're trying to cram too much into one podcast. I want you to choose the topics for today because we're not
okay.
going to get to my full list. Here's my full list. I wanted to start with USA propaganda movies during World War II. And from that, I wanted to segue the conversation into actors and directors involved with the OSS during that period. I wanted to segue into actors that joined the military. And then naturally, and here's what the discussion was going to be about for the most part, I wanted to segue into John Wayne, who I think was the most confused man Hollywood has ever produced because the image he portrayed, both on screen and off screen, I think was completely different from the person inside of him.
Totally.
There's a lot of evidence to back that up.
He was also just a flaming racist.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But maybe
in
not.
the background, there are things that
But
people knew in
see,
Hollywood that he
this
was.
is why. Okay, this is one topic. That topic alone could fill 90 minutes. 'Cause
Okay.
I really would love to talk about
Okay,
that.
I'm going to put down. Let's see. We got USA propaganda movies. We got the USS. We got John Wayne is a dickhead.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
and if you have to, for reference, you have to read the Playboy interview he did in the 70s.
Okay.
But then you have to watch some of his movies that were produced by his movie company, Batjack, where he actually portrays Native Americans in a
sympathetic.
sympathetic, yeah, but still not cool light.
Wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we got all that.
Okay, then the other topic, the next topic, the CIA bought the movie rights and produced an animated version of the book Animal Farm.
Ooh, that's a good book.
Yeah, but the CIA owned it. They might still. Then I wanted to, and one thing Holly and I always talk about is this fascinating unreleased Jerry Lewis movie. It's called The Day the Clown Cried, and basically, you read a little about it this morning. It's a super grim movie about life in a Nazi death camp during World War II that will probably never see the light of day. It's really, from what I understand, the movie's bad and very depressing.
When you sent me, and I will say just this for now, when you sent me the information, I'd A, never heard of it.
Right.
B, was horrified.
Yeah, yeah.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
But Professor, is this entertainment / Nazis 101? Because I thought I was taking Krabby Coffee Shop.
Well, that's the thing. I'm so excited I get to finally talk to Holly.
Somebody smart.
Yeah, that I've got, and then on top of that, I want to talk to Holly about, believe it or not, you might, and I didn't send this to you because I knew you would laugh in my face. I want to talk about 2 Andy Samberg movies.
What?
Yeah.
How does
Hot
that
Rod.
Okay.
Hot Rod, which I think is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Okay.
And Palm Springs, which is a rom-com, which is unlike any rom-com I've ever seen. I think Andy Samberg might be a genius.
Okay, so can
And
I...
then, we're not done.
Wow, jeez Louise.
And then I want to talk to Holly about why Die Hard is the perfect movie. And she's got a good, long explanation
Good.
on why it's a perfect movie. So
Okay,
there's no way we can talk about all
Okay,
of that
I
today.
I'm going to stay away from Nazis. I'm going to go Die Hard. I'm going to
Okay.
go... We can talk about the Day the Clown Cried clown Holocaust movie.
Okay.
That's it. That's all we have time for.
Okay.
Okay. But can I just talk about one thing before we...
No, because I have one more
Oh,
problem.
good God. Okay.
I need Holly to come back.
Okay. To what?
Or I need you as a management weasel to create another podcast,
Okay.
possibly hosted by Holly and Dawn or Holly and Kenny. I have to be a part of this.
Okay.
Where all we talk about is movies and TV in Hollywood. All the topics I just listed, I want to talk about on a weekly basis basis for at least an hour.
I
And I
love
think
that.
it would be really good.
I love that.
No pop culture. I couldn't care less about anything
Yep,
that's happening
got
right
it.
now.
Holly's take on movies and her sort of amazing knowledge of the history of movies would
Yeah.
be amazing, and I know you are equally interested.
Yeah. So you've picked the topics.
Okay.
Let's come back with Holly. Holly D. Roberts. I feel like I should be running on the beach right now with my arms open, about to hug you. We finally get to do a show together. Holly Roberts, welcome to the Krabby Coffee Shop.
I'm running to you, Kenny. Like Dudley Moore on the beach in 10.
I may have accidentally just piled more work on your back. I really think we should do a show.
I'm fine with that. I co-sign.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
You
the
work
boss.
out-
I can make her do it.
Tell you what.
That's true.
You guys, you guys just work out all the details and I'll show up when you tell me.
Okay.
What do you want to start with? Let's start with the day the clown cried, because I have been reading about this and almost watching it for, 3 years now we've been talking about it, Holly?
At least.
It's a Jerry Lewis mistake, as in Martin and Lewis, the goofball.
Yeah, the guy that was in, The Apartment. What other movies was he known for?
Cinderfella.
Cinderfella. He was like the door.
Rockabye baby. Hey,
Hey, lady! Yeah.
Plus, didn't he created a bunch of innovations for the theater, right? Including playback on set.
Yes, that was a Jerry Lewis invention. He's a cinematic genius.
Yeah.
In so many ways. He's hilarious, and he's also made one of the most notorious lost films in cinema history.
And I think lost for good reason. Let's give people background. So the movie is called The Day the Clown Cried.
I know. Yeah.
The
believe it.
Day the Clown Cried, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Give us the background on that, Holly.
The Day the Clown Cried was Jerry Lewis's foray into serious cinema making. The early 1970s, Jerry Lewis, a very successful director at this point, he wanted to challenge himself to cover a serious topic that hadn't been covered in this way before by Hollywood, which was the Holocaust. Plenty of World War II movies had been made, plenty of movies about Nazis. He decided to task himself specifically with making a movie about the Holocaust,
Death camps,
death camps.
gas chambers.
Yeah, the whole thing. And the way he was going to frame it was that he was going to star in this movie playing a clown that was convicted of insulting Hitler. And so he's not Jewish. This clown that he plays, which by the name is named Helmut Dork.
So he's a German, right?
Yes, he's a German.
Right. But you couldn't talk shit about Nazis or Hitler. And I guess he was caught doing that, right, Holly?
Yeah, he is in the movie. And so as a result of that, he's sent to a concentration camp. And he's a failed clown. He uses his clown skills, though, to cheer up children in the concentration camp,
Which seems nice.
which seems nice. Can I spoiler alert the movie? We're
Yeah.
just going to get
You're
to the
never
end.
going to see
Nobody-
it because it's
nobody-
not available.
At the end of the movie, he uses his clown skills to soften the blow for the children as they walk together into the gas chamber to collectively die.
They literally use him, it's described as the Holocaust gas chamber Pied Piper.
That's it, Amy. That's it.
The children go, oh, there's a clown. Let's follow them.
Yeah, and he's built this relationship with these children.
Right.
And at the end of the movie,
And didn't he do this to build favor or to gain confidence with the guards so he could live and not be gassed?
that's my understanding, Kenny.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, no one has, I shouldn't say no one. One person, the uncut version of the movie, my understanding is rough cut, was
Yep.
screened for a reporter who
Yep.
saw it.
Yep.
There's 3 hours or 5 hours in the Library of Congress.
Yes.
But otherwise, the movie's never been released. There's never been, to my knowledge, unless you know different, a final cut of the movie.
No final cut.
No final cut. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that anyone greenlit this movie.
But how was what I find one of the things I find fascinating is Jerry himself in the early days in the 70s really wanted to get this released, and he was whenever it came up, he was talking about it in a positive light, and he really thought it was a good piece of work, and they were working on it and editing it and putting it together. And then at some point, he turned, and he decided he hated it, and it would never see the light of day. What do you? And weren't there allegations, Holly, that he might have been abusing pharmaceuticals during the shooting, or am I thinking about something else? Maybe I am.
I don't know about the pharmaceuticals, Kenny, but I can say I'm sure Jerry Lewis saw the footage of the day the clown cried and was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I made a huge mistake.
And there were things like he was wearing really nice shoes. So there's images of him in these death camps with these fantastic, expensive loafers.
He's got some Ferragamos on.
Yeah.
In the dirt.
Yeah.
I think that, there's a documentary that came out. It debuted at the Venice Film Festival last year, and it actually aired on TMC, Turner Classics Movies, late last year, and it's called From Darkness to Light. And you get to see footage from the day the clown cried, more so than any time in history. And you watch this movie and you see the slow train wreck that was happening in front of him. It is a tooth-sucking sound, Amy.
Yeah.
And you can see that, and you understand that Jerry Lewis had ambition, and I can see what he was trying to do by telling this story. He did not have the skill set to pull it off.
That is such, to my mind, just knowing the concept, and I know nothing more than what I've read today, that is such a needle to thread. I think we can all generally agree that there are things that aren't on their face or even behind the scenes or deeper, not funny. The Holocaust might be at the top of that list.
Yeah, the most deeply unfunny
Funny thing that ever existed.
Yeah.
The extinguishment of millions.
But it wasn't
of people.
supposed to be funny.
No, but I don't. Here's the problem. You have this guy, and again, I'm talking, you guys know way more about this topic, but from a layman's perspective, anybody who knows anything about Jerry Lewis's career knows that he was the dorky guy. He was the, hey lady, that guy.
Yeah.
And so I can understand the instinct when that's who you were for the 60s. That when you get into the early 70s, you think, you know what? I'm going to if we looked at it now, it'd be like a Jim Carrey, right? I'm going to do important films. I'm going to do serious acting. But this one, being a clown that led children into a gas chamber during the Holocaust, I don't know how anyone, including him, thought that you could pull that off at all on any level.
Yeah, and he went into this project. Jerry Lewis was having press releases in Paris and talking about how great this film would be and how this is going to challenge him as a filmmaker and that he had a very important story to tell. And guys, I'm here to tell you, in this documentary, you see the last reel of footage of this movie. And it is as horrible and ill thought out as you think it is. And like I said, I told you the end of the movie.
Yeah.
The screen goes black, and all you get is audio
Of the kids going into the gas chamber?
of
Oh
the
my
gas
God.
chamber turning on.
No!
Oh, my God.
It's horrible.
Okay.
So it's not only a bad topic, it was poorly done.
Yeah.
For that reason alone, I think we should be able to see it.
It's in the
No,
Library
I
of
don't wanna
Congress,
see it.
Kenny. You want to see it, and recommend this documentary if you can get it.
What's it called?
It's not necessarily streaming. It's called From Darkness to Light.
Okay.
The movie itself, the documentary, is not particularly well made, but it gives you the raw footage of this movie, The Day the Clown Cried, in a way that you'll probably never see because it is in the Library of Congress. They said that it's open for educational purposes now. So if you go to Washington, D.C., and you actually sit in the library, somebody would give you the film and you could watch it.
I would go just to see that. A
Yeah.
Krabby Coffee Shop field trip.
I shall opt out of that.
We're going, Kenny.
Have you seen, and what do you think of, I think it was called The King of Comedy with Jerry Lewis, the talk show host that was kidnapped,
Oh, I love that movie.
Robert De Niro in it? Yeah.
Well, and I think part of my view of this whole film, The Day the Clown Cried, is Jerry Lewis is a well-known asshole.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He was not a
yep.
well-liked person.
Well
not
documented.
by his coworkers, not by Dean Martin, his longtime partner, not by women that ever worked with him. Do you guys remember there was a final interview that he did where he was particularly crabby and cranky and jerky? And if you get just go Google it, you'll look it up, you'll find out. The last interview he did, which was on camera, he was just particularly horrible.
I wonder if that came from not being able to live with himself, where he wanted to be somebody serious, and he obviously was, and came up with all these innovations, but then always playing the boob
Right.
in the movies.
Well, and frankly, a lot of my memory of him was from the MD Telethon,
Yes.
Right.
which also seemed like everybody thought he was like this wonderful guy who would
Right.
bring these children on and cry and hug them. Then you found out behind the scenes that, I was thinking this the other day, anytime anyone gets, Ellen was called the Queen of Nice. Rosie O'Donnell was called the Queen of Nice. Jerry Lewis was
This is
like this patron saint of niceness.
What a good point. You're right.
It never lasts.
No, because it's always false. So, guys, I want you to refer to me as a straight up biatch publicly from now on.
Okay, listen
Now,
here.
Holly,
I hate Holly Roberts.
please do. I'll take it as a compliment.
She's the worst ever.
Okay, we got to move along, but before we do, I have to, and I'm throwing this this curveball at you about people seeing movies that are either really bad or that shouldn't have been made, or that are so old they're stupid. And I'm referring to the 1915 silent movie Birth of a Nation, which might be the most racist silent movie ever made.
And I don't know that movie. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so The Birth of the Nation, it was one of the big first narrative films that was made. 3 reel, W.D. Griffith. It was an epic story, and it has a place in cinema history, but you have to watch it with a critical eye, because the consequences of A Birth of a Nation, or The Birth of a Nation, have been very dire for our culture. And it has had very negative influence in culture at large.
Give me a synopsis.
The Ku Klux Klan comes to save the day, and they're depicted
my-
as heroes.
Yep.
Yeah.
What kind of are we in the upside down right now?
That movie was released over 100 years ago.
But so
Bizarro world. That's where
but give
we
me
are.
just a thumbnail synopsis.
The horrible black people take over and scare the hell out of the prim and proper and beautiful white people, and thank God we have the Ku Klux Klan that are going to swoop in and step down all the black folks.
And that's the movie.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
was the
And-
biggest
Holy
movie of
buckets.
all time.
Holly, it's like 18 hours long.
Yeah.
It's really long.
Yeah, it's really long. So you can look at that movie and study its importance in how films are constructed and how they're made and how they're edited and the impact it had on the culture. But straight up, it's trash. And it's awful. And it had awful consequences for the culture, because people were celebrating it.
And they thought,
Yep.
I'm sure at the time, they thought that was like reflected some truth.
Yeah, we don't have time
We don't
to
have
go
time for
into
this.
this, Kenny. We don't have time.
That's what I'm saying. That's my anxiety. And if we now, and I'm going to throw this at you too, if we fast forwarded to, I think it was 1943, there was a movie made by the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services. And it was a propaganda movie to big up the USA, called The Negro Soldier, which portrayed black people in a positive light in order to get them to volunteer to go fight in World War II. And it was well loved by all races in all of America.
Really?
Was this
Yeah.
a Hollywood film, Kenny, or
Yeah,
is this
yeah.
one of the movies that was made by people who were hired by the military to make training videos?
The latter. It was the latter. And it was from that email you sent me this morning.
And you say OSS like the German OSS?
No,
no,
like
no.
the precursor to the CIA.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So they were doing fun, dirty tricks during World War II, and they eventually, after the war, turned into the CIA. But see, that's why we need a whole show about this. You can't cram all of this into just 45 minutes.
Not with us dopes.
Right.
This is way too deep for us to talk about.
I need to get one topic and then research the hell out of that topic and then talk about it.
Right.
But let's take a break, change gears, come back, and have a little fun. Holly D. Roberts, Oh, hi, Amy. You just sit there, turn your mic off, and listen to Holly and me talk.
And I'm Amy Daniels.
One of the first memories I have of you that really sticks is you trying to convince me that Die Hard was the perfect movie. And when I scoffed at that, you said, no, really, we actually studied it in movie school. And I've watched it a couple of times since then. And the only thing I get out of Die Hard is it a Christmas movie or not? And it absolutely is a Christmas movie. But you've got to break this down for me and explain to me why everybody thinks that Die Hard is the perfectly made movie.
Die Hard is an airtight action movie. Reading the screenplay, when you break it down, this is a fun a film school activity that anybody can do at home. Watch a movie, then go find the screenplay of the movie and read the screenplay.
Okay.
Then you find the real genius of a movie. You can read the beats, you can imagine things happening. And Die Hard has, not only is it a fabulously executed movie, but that screenplay is airtight. Not a single word is useless. There's no filler. It's all killer, no filler.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's genius. I rewatched it over the holidays. And to your point, Kenny, yes, it is a Christmas movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely it is.
And
Because there's snow.
there's no snow. It's in Los
Oh,
Angeles.
okay. I mean, there's no snow, but it's Christmas time.
That's right. It's Christmas Eve. The holiday party is happening at Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles.
Right.
Oh, my God, you even know the name of the building.
Well,
course- of
and
course she
fun
does.
fact, that building is in Century City in LA, and that is the headquarters of Fox. They produced the movie.
Really?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't- yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to it being the perfect movie. When you say that and you look at the screenplay, is that how you notice where a movie makes choices?
yes.
Because there's the source material.
Right.
But then there's a lot of ways to interpret the source material, right?
Exactly, because this is based on a book. Die Hard is based on a book. And at one point in time, this book was being developed in the late 70s to be a star project for Frank Sinatra.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I can't even imagine that.
Horrible choice, right?
Really bad.
So Frank Sinatra had starred in this movie called The Detective. Kenny, I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
that.
I have, yeah.
So The Detective was also based on a book by the same author as the book that Die Hard's based off of. So they were going to develop it for Frank.
Gritty.
Yeah. And it was a lot grimmer than,
Yeah, right.
than the movie turned out to be in 1988. They made a great choice. Bruce Willis starring in this. So you can see creative choices when you're reading a screenplay. And if you're flipping through the pages and you can see something happening in your mind, and it might be different than the actual movie, then that's a good screenplay.
Right.
Would
and
you
then
call...
I'm sorry, Kenny,
Go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
Are you saying then that the screenplay was airtight
Yeah.
and perfect?
Yeah.
But then also the choices made after that when they actually produced, edited this movie, even made it even better.
Yes. Because Die Hard encapsulates everything that was happening in 1988. This is an action movie on its surface. So you've got the Bruce Willis not wearing shoes, going and trying to defeat the terrorists, and then, people falling out of windows, explosions, all that. Then you've got the social commentary at the time. It's the late 1980s. There's anxiety in the United States about Japan taking over everything economically.
That's right.
The company is Japanese. You also have the terrorists who are kind of playing people by pretending to be quote unquote terrorists, but really they're just robbers and they want the money. So they're playing on people's fears in that way, things
Right.
that are happening. Then you also have the gender dynamics between John McClane and his wife, Holly. They're separated. She's being a boss biatch out in Los Angeles. She's dropped the McClane name. She goes by Gennaro. She's not really referencing the fact that she's married. And John McClane's kind of beefing about this a little bit. They're trying to reconcile their marriage. So there's also those kinds of things happening in Die Hard too.
It's just so fascinating. And I remember distinctly, I happened to be living in California at the time. I was driving through Los Angeles. At the time, I think I was listening to KLOS, which is a radio station out of LA. So I was listening to that, and they were talking about the fact it would have been 1988 or 87, probably late 87, early 88. They were talking about the fact that this movie was coming out with Bruce Willis, who prior to that had been the guy in Moonlighting, right? This was his big foray into movies. And I remember thinking at the time in my car, driving in Los Angeles, thinking, well, that's the dumbest casting I've ever heard. Like, that guy, really? That guy? And, well, I was wrong.
Well, yeah, counter to the beefcake dudes, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the Sylvester Stallones.
Right? The Jean-Claude Van Dammes.
Yeah, that were dominating action films at the time. Mm-hmm. And so people were skeptical about that. And then you make one of the genius things about Die Hard is John McClane is relatable and he's vulnerable.
Yes.
You ask yourself,
Yeah.
what would you be doing in a situation like this? Would you be clever and resourceful and sassy like Bruce Willis's John McClane? He doesn't have shoes on.
He doesn't have shoes.
And he's walking on
And he's
glass.
walking on glass.
His feet are bloody.
He loves her that much, and he loves us that much. Mm-hmm.
That's something we do as viewers, don't we? We put ourselves in their shoes and we try to see ourselves in that character.
Except this time, he doesn't have shoes.
Who do you know who
We just amused ourselves.
which movie weasel was responsible for hiring Bruce Willis in this? Do we know who gets
Who
credit?
was the director? I'm sorry.
John McTiernan.
Oh,
And
But he
you could do a
didn't
whole
necessar-
podcast on him and all his stuff. But
was he involved in the casting?
gosh, I don't know if I'm getting this right exactly about Die Hard, but I know that Bruce Willis really wanted to do this, and he negotiated hard for it.
okay.
So he saw the potential in this. I want to take my career to the next level. I want to be in this movie. Because, Amy, like you just pointed out, there is a general skepticism about seeing the Moonlighting guy in this big blockbuster.
It was so, it's hard to explain given the history of Die Hard now and what we know about it now. But in 1988, like I said, it's so clear in my mind being in the car and they're like, oh, Die Hard's coming out this weekend or whatever this month, and thinking that is going to be the dumbest movie. They're just taking a dumb TV guy who's a detective. And Moonlighting, for those who don't know, and why would you, was this kind of it was a detective show, but kind of a goofball one with Sybil Shepherd. And they were always feuding. It was the kind of the classic, will they, won't they? You know, are these two going to get together or not, was sort of the central question. And then when they did get together, the show was pretty much over at that point. But I just remember being like many, so skeptical about him being in this movie. And it really launched his entire rest of his career.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to stop you right there. I mean, Moonlighting was the hottest show on television, and he was the Seagram's Golden Wine Coolers guy. There was nobody cooler than Bruce Willis
On
in
television.
1988.
On
But
television.
you're taking a guy who is on the hit TV show and putting him into a movie. It is the most obvious thing in Hollywood.
Not in the
and he
19
was coming,
not in the
And he was coming
1980s.
off of 3 movies. He had already done Blind Date. He had done, what was the other 2 I just looked up?
The ones you can't remember?
Sunset. They were bad, but he had been in movies.
I know, but he
Like,
had. Here's the
yeah.
thing. Holly,
You are,
back
as
me
a
up on
woman,
this. Whoa.
I'm just saying, like, as a 13-year-old boy in 1988, Bruce Willis was cool, and seeing Die Hard was cool.
I
think
got
it's-
you, but there's this big distinction. Holly, back me up on this. Movie actors do not think TV actors belong in movies.
And that was especially true in the 1980s. If you were on television, you are not a movie star.
Yep.
If you were a movie star in the 1980s, that was rarefied space in Hollywood. You were looked on as in a different class if you were a television star.
It was like how TV stars, big TV stars, used to look at soap opera stars as being the lowest form of acting, right? Mm-hmm. There's the hierarchy.
Yes.
And
But
that
people
Bruce
made the
Willis
leap.
in TV would jump from, no matter how successful, and by the way, you were 13, Sweet Pea.
just saying
A
the
little different.
right. I was like, Die Hard Bruce Willis, right?
Right.
So I'm saying there was a different Pierce Brosnan, another man who jumped from television to movies. That was an absolutely normal thing to happen.
But it wasn't normal.
There wasn't normal. It was
wasn't-
rare.
Yeah.
it was people were unsuccessful at it, but it wasn't. That was the progress of life.
also,
if you could make the jump.
yeah, if you could make the jump. Also, with Pierce Brosnan, you know, he made a jump from Remington Steele to James Bond, and that was kind of into
And that
this.
took, I want to say that was at least a decade later.
Yeah.
And by the way,
I like
Remington
that.
Steele was a horrible, horrible show.
Yeah,
was a
but I thought
good-looking
him,
man.
He was, but I watched it recently. It's really not.
him as James Bond was good, though.
Oh, I loved him as James.
You know
Perfect.
who else didn't have a lot of movies before Moonlighting? Sybil Shepherd. And I just watched her in a movie from, I think, 71, where she was topless throughout most of the movie. Go ahead, Holly. Name that movie.
With the Last Picture Show?
Yes, in black and white.
Wasn't
With
she
the
nominated for
dude.
an Oscar for that?
Yeah, well, she eventually got married to Peter Bogdanovich, the director of that movie.
Yeah. Also in that movie, Jeffrey Lebowski, the dude.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Sybil Shepherd also not
Yeah.
very well liked
Yep.
in Hollywood.
So
All the way back around to Jerry Lewis.
is Die Hard, would you call that a 3-act movie?
Oh, yeah.
And one thing I really like about that movie is how they set up the weasel that is trying to get into the pants of Bruce Willis's ex-wife. That weasel.
Oh, yeah,
you
the
know,
Coke guy.
doing caught by the boss doing blow, and how he meets his demise. I didn't see this in the theater, but I'll bet you anything the theater applauded when he was killed.
Oh, absolutely, because that character represented the sleazy 1980s Wall Street greed is good kind of guy. And
Yeah.
by the time 1988 came around, we had already
Yeah.
experienced the Wall Street crash of the 80s, and people
Right.
wanted some vengeance on that. So there's all those layered social commentaries also talking about the newsroom people. If it bleeds, it leads. Going and chasing the story, where
Yeah.
William Atherton, who plays the baddie in Ghostbusters, he plays the EPA baddie, which also is social commentary in and of itself in that movie. But we don't have time to go into that.
He has so much content and so little time.
One of the great things about Die Hard and a lot of these other action movies is that as cynical as I am, and I'm always trying to think about the blocking and the marks in the floor where you're supposed to step and all of that, I still get really into the movie, and I have to remind myself, oh yeah, Bruce Willis is the hero. He is not going to die in
Right?
this movie. But that's how much I get into it and how good the movie actually is.
That makes me want to go back and watch it again, because every time I have and I watched it, I don't watch movies multiple times. There are exceptions. Die Hard's an exception, and Princess Bride is an exception. I love those movies, but I haven't watched it in, I bet, a decade, and I should go back because it is such a fun movie.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So if you're listening in your car right now, I want you to pull over, get out a pen and paper, because I'm going to give you the best movie recommendation you've ever received when we return.
Yes.
Amy Daniels is joining Holly Roberts and I as we talk about movies on News from the Krabby Coffee Shop. Thanks for being with us, Amy.
I'm Amy Daniels.
So here's the movie recommendations, and they're super dumb. And if you need relief from what's going on in your life or life in the United States, whatever, I promise you, you will enjoy these 3 movies. Number 1, I want to go with the Andy Samberg movies, and you might not believe me, but it's a movie called Hot Rod. And for years, I avoided watching this movie because I thought erroneously that it was about Andy Samberg, who owns a hot rod. And in my mind, he was driving around doing street drag racing and blah, blah, blah. Well,
That's
one
what
day
I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. Finally, one day, I finally watched it, and oh my God, it was delightful, and I loved it, and I've watched it twice since then. Andy Samberg plays a stuntman, a kid that wants to be a stuntman, and he's a dumbbell, but he's a lovable dumbbell, and it's fun.
Oh,
and
good.
It's just wonderful, and it has a wonderful ending. And also, over the weekend, just recently, just days ago, I was looking for a movie to watch, and I was looking for Andy Samberg movies, and one that came up was called Palm Springs. And you could tell from the cover or the picture they give you that it's going to be a rom-com. And I'm like, oh boy, rom-coms. I know that formula. It's the same formula for every movie. I don't want to do it. But it is so weird and so bizarre. And the not the precedent, what do I call it?
Premise?
The premise, thank you, is so ridiculous that I had to keep watching it. And it does follow the rom-com formula where they get together, they try not to do it, then they do it, then they break up, then they get back together. It's that formula, but
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Who's he in it with? Who's the co-star?
Some chick, I don't know.
Is it Aubrey Plaza?
No, it's not.
No.
No, she's in a lot of movies right now, and I've avoided all of them for some reason. I can't explain to you why I don't like her, because I love her when she's on the couch doing interviews. I think she's really good. And I liked her in that TV show that
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. And wasn't she also in that show that Opie did the voiceover for?
Arrested Development?
Yeah. She was in that too, wasn't she?
I can't confirm that.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's a
But
different
I would have
female.
guessed you would like her. She seems like your kind of girl.
I don't understand why I'm hesitant to watch her. I don't know why. And she's recently suffered some tragedy in her life, but we're
she
not
has.
here for that. And then the other movie is, somebody recommended this to me about a month or so ago, and I immediately, because of the title, obviously, I went and watched it, and it is ridiculous and funny, and you're going to struggle the first 10 minutes. Stay with it. Just relax. You're going to be entertained. It's going to be fun. It's called Hundreds of Beavers. And it's not what you think, okay? You can watch this with the whole family.
Seriously, I saw the trailer. First, he sent it to me,
Yeah.
and I only saw the title. I'm like, I don't know.
Can I open this on my
Yeah,
work
right.
computer?
It is safe
Yeah,
for work.
yeah.
And then I opened it up and watched the trailer, and it is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's basically, it looks like, you tell me, Kenny, from the trailer, it looked like grown men wearing beaver outfits.
Yeah. Trappers.
Trappers that are like caught in these series of situations, but they're in like a mascot costume that's a beaver.
And
Right.
there are no furries involved in
None.
this movie.
The premise kind of is, he's this guy, in order to be successful and marry this fur trader's daughter, has to be successful and have money. And he starts out the program as a drunk loser who loses everything. And the way to get back is to go out in the wilderness, and it's always in the winter, and trap critters in order to go back and buy tools and equipment and hammers and axes and guns. Kind of like a video game, actually. So he can go out and trap more critters so he can get more money so he can eventually marry this gal's daughter. And it's all about that. And it's so stupid and so ridiculous. There's almost no dialogue. I think the only dialogue, if I remember right, is at one point in the movie, he says, well, shit. I think that's the only dialogue. I think that's the only dialogue
But
in it.
is he in the beaver outfit the whole time?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Is this set in modern times?
The filmmaking alone to me is baffling. That's why I want you to watch it and tell me how they made this movie. Is it all computer generated? Did they really go out in the snow? It's weird,
Is it
Holly.
like available on streaming?
Yeah, it's either on Amazon or Hulu right now. I can't
Okay,
remember
we'll
which
pinky
one.
swear. We'll watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
All
that's
right.
a big pinky swear.
So this, Amy, would be the genesis of Holly's new movie podcast show.
We're going to start with an episode about 100 beavers.
I don't care what she starts with. She's
knows
going to
stuff.
take the lead, and she's going to tell me what to research and what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about it. And eventually, we'll be able to quit our stupid normal jobs and just do that for a living.
You underestimate the degree to which I depend on my stupid other job.
Yeah, well, that's your problem.
Get back to work, Holly.
Oh, okay, will do.
You've been found redundant, Daniel. It's time for you to go.
I get it. It's okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. Well, number one, thank you to Holly.
Yes,
thank you
Holly,
for
this was
joining
so
us.
much
Thank you for
fun.
inviting me.
And now we have a whole new podcast for you.
Yay!
And Amy, as always, thank you for being my psychiatrist and my psychologist and my best friend. And thank you to everybody for listening to News from the Krabby Coffee Shop.
Bye.